The moment the layoff list was projected onto the big screen, I saw my own name, Joanne Chow, senior Manda attorney, top performer for 5 consecutive years, and the right-hand woman to my boyfriend Lee Chungza on the list. My name was followed by the word optimized. While Xu Jiaojiao, an assistant who does nothing but take selfies and writes contracts like romance novels, was crossed off the list. Standing before the projection in his sharp suit, Chungza spoke with a gentle voice. Joanne, you have plenty of clients. Take this break to focus on getting pregnant. Jiaojiao can't afford her student loans. She's in a pitiful spot. He had no idea that 3 hours ago King & Wood, the top-tier Red Circle law firm, had just offered me a senior partner position. Chungza Law Firm, Conference Room 3:00 p.m. I sat at the far end of the long table, staring at the list on the screen. Lee Chungza stood by the projector, his red laser pointer dancing across the names. He was the founding partner, my boyfriend, and the moderator of today's layoff meeting. This year's optimization list, Chungza's voice was deep and magnetic, includes 5 people. The red dot stopped on the first name, Joanne Chow. My hand holding the pen froze, the tip punctured the paper, and ink bled into a dark blotch. Joanne, Chungza looked at me, his gaze as tender as if we were discussing dinner plans. You've been our top performer for 5 years, you've worked hard, but considering you're turning 30, it's time to think about family. For this optimization, take 6 months off. Think of it as prep time for pregnancy. The room went dead silent. A dozen partners stared at me with mixed expressions, some sympathetic, some gloating, some indifferent. I slowly set my pen down. Attorney Lee, my medical reports show I have 0 plans for pregnancy. Not now, but eventually. Chungza smiled, moving the laser to the next name. A woman's career, no matter how good, isn't as important as her family. Don't worry, your salary will be paid for these 6 months. Consider it a paid vacation. The red dot landed on Xu Jiaojiao's name, then moved past it. Jiaojiao stays, Chungza said. She can't pay back her student loans, it's too pitiful, plus, young people have drive, she's worth cultivating. I looked at Xu Jiaojiao sitting in the corner. She was wearing a pink suit, sporting exquisite makeup and touching up her lipstick with her phone. Sensing my gaze, she looked up and gave me a saccharine, provocative smile. Attorney Lee, I stood up. May I see Xu Jiaojiao's performance metrics for this year? Chungza frowned. Joanne, don't make a scene. I'm not, I said calmly. I just want to know why an assistant who writes Manda agreements like romance novels, gets the opposing party's name wrong 3 times, and makes clients blow up on the spot is more worth cultivating than me. Jiaojiao's face flushed. Attorney Chow, you're targeting me. Targeting you? I sneered. Last month, you swapped my due diligence report for your selfies and sent them to a client, losing us a $30 million deal. You call that targeting? Enough. Chungza slammed the table. Joanne, watch your tone. Jiaojiao is a rookie. Mistakes are normal. You're a senior attorney. You should have some professional grace. I looked at him, this man I had lived with for 3 years, who made me breakfast every morning and told me I was the best. His eyes were now ice cold, looking at me like a stranger. Lee Chungza. I addressed him by name. During this paid vacation, who gets my clients? Chungza's eyes flickered. Jiaojiao will take over temporarily. Rest assured, when you come back. I'm not coming back, I interrupted. Lee Chungza, we're over, and I'm done with this pathetic firm. I grabbed my bag and turned to leave. Chungza shouted behind me. Joanne Chow, don't you regret this? No firm will want you once you leave. Chungza, you're 30. A woman at 30 is like leftover scraps. I slammed the door, cutting his voice off. In the hallway, the receptionist looked at me in shock. I ducked into the elevator, and the moment the doors closed, the tears finally fell, not because of the layoff, but because of my own stupidity. For 3 years I thought he loved me. It turns out I was just a tool, squeezed for every drop of labor when I was useful, and kicked to the curb with a pregnancy label when I wasn't. My phone rang, an unknown number. Miss Joanne Chow. The voice was steady. I am the HR director at King & Wood. Our founder, Mr. Qiao Zhengbang, wishes to see you regarding the senior partner position. I froze. King & Wood, the top-ranked Red Circle firm. Qiao Zhengbang. I'm sorry, what? Mr. Qiao is your father, the voice said. He has been waiting for you to come home for 00 p.m. top floor of King & Wood. Does that work for you? I looked at my reflection in the elevator door. My makeup was a mess and my eyes were red, but my back was straight. Yes, I said. Tell my father his daughter is on her way. I drove to the underground garage and looked in the rearview mirror. Joanne Chow, 29, top-performing senior attorney at Chungza Law, fired by her boyfriend for pregnancy prep. But no one knew my real surname was Qiao, as in Qiao Zhengbang, the founder of Kingandwood, the godfather of the Chinese legal world, and my biological father. 3 years ago I fought with him, claiming I'd make it on my own. I went undercover at Cheng's firm. I thought it was independence. Turns out, I just jumped into a pit. My phone buzzed, a message from Li Chengze. Joanne, I was a bit harsh earlier. Come home for dinner tonight. I'll make red wine steak and we can talk. I sneered and replied, no thanks, Attorney Lee, save the steak for the dogs. I blocked him and started the car. Li Chengze, you think the layoff is the end? Wrong, it's just the beginning. In 3 hours, when I sit across from my father as a senior partner of Kingandwood and watch your firm struggle for survival, I hope you remember what you said today. A woman at 30 is leftover scraps. I'll show you that a 30-year-old woman can be a blade, a sword, and a queen you can't afford to provoke. Cheng's luxury villa was in the West District, 300 square meters with a garden. He bought it when we moved in 3 years ago. It was in his name, but I paid the down payment. I thought we were getting married. I went back to pack. The passcode hadn't been changed. I pushed the door open and memories hit me like a physical weight. The sofa where we watched movies, the kitchen where he brewed ginger tea for me, the photo on the bedroom wall of him kissing my forehead. Now it just felt nauseating. I ran upstairs, dragged out my suitcase and started tossing clothes. I didn't want any of it. For 3 years I'd been a fool, thinking love meant sacrifice and endurance, helping him run his firm, maintaining his clients, and cleaning up his messes. Joanne. Cheng's voice came from the door. He was standing there, jacket off, tie loosened, holding grocery bags, steak, red wine, and my favorite tiramisu. Are you really breaking up? He walked in, sounding wounded. Just because I asked you to rest. I'm doing this for you, Joanne. Look at you. You look terrible. Those dark circles. I care about you. I want you to take a break. A break, I scoffed, throwing a dress into the suitcase. Li Chengze, you call a layoff a break. You call stealing all my clients caring. Clients belong to the firm, not the individual. Chengze frowned. Joanne, you're being too emotional. Let's talk. I bought your favorite. I don't like tiramisu. I snapped. I never have. You just buy it to brush me off every time you make me angry. 3 years and you don't even know what I like to eat. Chengze froze, then dropped the bags on the floor. Joanne Qiao, don't be ungrateful. I gave you a graceful way out. You think at 30 you can find a better job. Who else would want you besides me? I stopped and looked at him. This man I once loved now looked hideous. Every word out of his mouth was a jagged blade. Li Chengze, I said calmly. Do you know why I was the top performer? Because you're a workaholic. He sneered. Because you don't know how to socialize. You just put your head down and work. Men don't like women who are too ambitious. Because my name is Qiao, I said. As in Qiao Zhengbang, the founder of Kingandwood is my father. Cheng's face turned to stone. His mouth hung open as if I was speaking a foreign language. 3 years ago, I went undercover at your firm to prove myself. Well, I've proven it. I've proven you're blind. I've proven you built your success on the backs of women, and I've proven you're trash. I threw the last item in and zipped the suitcase. Li Chengze, I paid the down payment on this house. I supervised the renovations. I brought in the clients. Now I'm taking it all back. Tomorrow my lawyer will contact you regarding the division of assets. Actually, scratch that. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Attorney Zhong, this is Joanne Qiao. Yes, Qiao Zhengbang's daughter. Please come to the West District Villa right now to handle a property dispute. The other party is Li Chengze of Chengze Law. I want to recover every cent I've invested over the last 3 years, including the intellectual property rights to my client resources. I hung up and looked at a pale Li Chengze. Now get out. This is my house legally. I own at least half the equity. Chengze finally snapped out of his daze. He rushed forward, trying to grab my hand. Joanne, let me explain. I didn't know you were his daughter. If I had known, I never would have. Never would have what? I stepped back, dodging him. Never would have fired me. Never would have forced me into pregnancy prep. Never would have promoted that ornament, Shu Jiao. Those were misunderstandings. Chengze panicked. The layoff was a partner decision, not just me, and Jiao, her father is the vice president of the High Court. I had no choice. I laughed. So that was it. Jiao wasn't kept because of her pitiful loans. She was kept because of her daddy. Chengze wasn't being charitable. He was social climbing. Li Chengze, I said, you said a woman at 30 is leftover scraps. Now those scraps are going to show you what real power looks like. The doorbell rang. Attorney Zhong had arrived. As I dragged my suitcase toward the stairs, Li Chengze scrambled after me. Joanne, 3 years. We've been together for 3 years. How can you just throw it all away? I stopped at the door and turned to give him one last look. Together, Chungza, were you ever actually with me, or were you just in love with the high-end clients I brought to your table? He opened his mouth but the words died in his throat. I stepped outside where Attorney Zhong was already waiting. Miss Chow, shall I start by putting a lien on this property? I commanded. Then audit the books at Chungza Law. I suspect Li Chungza of embezzlement and misappropriation of client funds. Furthermore, contact the Manda Group at Kingandwood. I want to acquire Chungza Law's distressed assets. Zhong nodded professionally. Understood. Your father, Chairman Chow, has already reached out. We are at your full disposal. I climbed into the car and took one final look at the villa. Chungza stood in the doorway, his shoulders slumped, looking like a plucked rooster that had lost its fight. My phone buzzed with a WeChat message from Xu Jiaojiao. Oh, Attorney Chow, Chungza told me you got optimized. How tragic. Don't you worry though, I'll take excellent care of your clients for you, XO. I sneered and typed back. Congratulations, Assistant Xu, I hope you're still smiling tomorrow. I blocked her, hit the ignition and sped off. Li Chungza, Xu Jiaojia, the game is officially afoot. The Kingandwood headquarters dominated the CBD skyline, 72 stories of glass and steel piercing the clouds like a literal sword. I pulled into the VIP spot and took the private elevator straight to the penthouse. The doors opened to a sprawling lounge where the city's skyline unfolded behind floor-to-ceiling windows. My father sat on a leather sofa, calmly brewing tea at 6 to 5. His hair was silver but his back was straight as a rod and his eyes remained as sharp as a hawk's. Seeing me, he set down his teacup, his eyes softened with a hint of red. You've lost weight, Dad. I walked over and knelt before him, just as I used to do when I was a child. He patted my head, his voice low and rumbling. 3 years. You finally decided to come home. I was a fool, I admitted. I thought I could conquer the world on my own, only to end up as someone's tool for 3 years. Not a fool, he said, helping me up. The young must trip to learn how to walk. What matters is that when you fall you get back up. He handed me a cup of tea. I know about Li Chungza. What's your move? I want him to have nothing, I said coldly. But I won't use the Chow family's shadow to do it. I'll use my own hands. Dad, does that offer still stand? Of course. He pulled a folder from the mahogany drawer. Senior partner at Kingandwood, head of Manda and restructuring, 8-figure salary plus bonuses. But there is one condition. Name it. Acquire Chungza Law within 3 months. My father's gaze turned icy. Not with my money, but with your talent. I want Li Chungza to realize exactly what kind of woman he threw away. I took the document and flipped it open. It contained my appointment letter alongside a surgical breakdown of Chungza Law, their financials, client lists, partnership agreements, and even Chungza's personal bank statements. You've been preparing for this since your first day at his firm, he said flatly. I was just waiting for you to see the truth. I've seen men like Li Chungza 1,000 times. They build their lives on the backs of women, turn cold the moment they feel secure, and eventually orchestrate their own demise. I stared at the data. Dad, why didn't you stop me back then? Could I have? He chuckled sadly. You're just like your mother, stubborn. I can protect you but I can't live for you. I've watched every case you handled these past 3 years. You did well, better than I expected. My eyes stung. He had been watching over me the whole time. In the shadows I never noticed. Dad, I said, I'm going to ruin him but not yet. I want him to taste success one last time before I pull the rug out. I want him to know that everything he prides himself on was a gift from me. My father smiled, the cold, predatory smile of a hunter watching prey enter a trap. That's my girl. Go on then, your office is ready on the 71st floor. Tomorrow you will attend the legal summit as a senior partner. Li Chungza will be there with his little trophy assistant, Xu Jiaojiao. Yes, my father nodded. Her father is indeed a vice president at the High Court. However, that vice president is scheduled to be taken into custody for corruption next month. The power Chungza is trying to climb toward is about to become a burning wreckage. I stood and walked to the window. From this height, the Chungza Law building 3 blocks away looked like a pathetic toy. Dad, I said, I'm going to humiliate Xu Jiaojiao at the summit and strip Chungza of his dignity. That's step 1. What do you need from me? Lend me one of your collectibles. I turned back. The Qianlong era Famal Rose tea set. Xu Jiaojiao once bragged on social media about being an antique expert. She claims she can spot a fake from a mile away. My father arched an eyebrow, setting a trap. No, I smiled. Just giving her enough rope to hang herself. The next day the legal summit was held at the International Convention Center. I walked in wearing a Chanel haute couture suit and my mother's heirloom emerald necklace. My King & Wood senior partner badge glinted under the chandeliers. "Attorney Chow," someone called out. It was a former client. "I heard you moved to King & Wood. Congratulations." "Thank you." I smiled gracefully. "I look forward to our continued collaboration." "Absolutely. We were just worried about the declining service at Chungsa Law. Since you've left, we weren't planning on renewing with them anyway." Just then a stir at the entrance caught our attention. Lee Chungsa walked in, sporting an Armani suit with Xu Jiaojiao clinging to his arm like a pink butterfly in her ruffled gown. The moment they saw me they both turned to stone. Joanne." Chungsa's voice trembled. "What are you doing here?" I adjusted my badge. "Joanne Xiao, senior partner at King & Wood. Long time no see, Attorney Lee." Jiaojiao's face went pale. Weren't you optimized?" "Optimized?" I let out a soft laugh. "Assistant Xu, in the big leagues we call that a strategic pivot. By the way, I heard your father is up for a promotion next month. Congratulations." Jiaojiao tilted her chin up defiantly. "That's right, my dad is the vice president of the court." Chungsa said, "Once I'm settled, he'll make me a partner." "Then you'd better hurry," I interrupted. "After all, your father's time is running quite short." She blinked, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer, turning toward the main hall instead. Behind me I heard Chungsa whisper, "Ignore her, she's just jealous." "Jealous?" I smirked. "Chungsa, you're about to learn the true meaning of the word." During the coffee break I accidentally bumped into a waiter's tray, splashing tea onto my skirt. I let out a gasp, drawing a small crowd. "Attorney Chow, are you alright?" The organizer rushed over, panicked. "It's fine." I frowned. "But this is a limited edition piece." "Never mind, I have a spare gown in my car. Could someone grab my keys?" I pulled out my car keys, which were attached to a miniature replica of the Famille Rose tea set, a habit of my father's to carry micromodels of his prized collections. Jiajiao's eyes lit up instantly. She pushed through the crowd. "Attorney Chow, is that a Famille Rose piece?" "Good eye, Assistant Xu," I said with feigned surprise. "It's a piece from my father's collection, Qianlong era. The authentic set is in my car." I was about to drop it off at the auction house for an appraisal. "An auction house?" Jiaojiao's voice went shrill. How much is it worth?" "Starts at 30 million, I sighed. "But my father is reluctant to part with it. He just wanted me to get it photographed." "Assistant Xu, if you'll excuse me, I need to change." "Attorney Chow." Jiaojiao grabbed my arm. Let me get it for you. Your skirt is wet. It's inconvenient for you to walk all that way." I hesitated, then handed her the keys. "That's very kind of you. Zone B, spot 12. The tea set is in the back seat in a black sandalwood box. Be extremely careful. Do not drop it." "I won't, I promise." Jiaojiao snatched the keys, practically vibrating with excitement, and ran off. I watched her retreating figure, the corner of my mouth curving upward. The tea set was a fake. The real one was tucked safely in the King & Wood vault. The one in the car was a high-end replica my father had commissioned for 3,000 yuan. But inside that box was a hidden microcamera. "Let's see what you do, Jiaojiao." The summit continued, and I took my seat in the front row. My phone vibrated with a live feed. Jiaojiao arrived at the garage, opened the car, and found the box. She couldn't wait to open it. Her eyes practically turned into dollar signs. "My God," she whispered, reaching out to touch it before pulling back in fear. She whipped out her phone and started snapping photos for social media. "Encountered a masterpiece today, Qianlong Famille Rose, valued at 30 million. Then, she did exactly what I expected. She pulled an identical box from her own bag, took out a different tea set and swapped them. I felt a chill of satisfaction. "You never disappoint, Jiaojiao." The set she swapped in was from her father's collection, actually a cheap knockoff bought online for 300 yuan. She had a habit of using her father's position to flip antiques within the court system for a profit. What she didn't know was that the masterpiece she just stole was also a replica, but the one I left in the car was tagged with a King & Wood forensic marker and a GPS tracker. I saved the video evidence and turned my attention back to the stage. 2 hours later, Jiaojiao returned. Breathless and flushed. "Attorney Chow, I put the tea set back. It's perfectly safe." "Thank you." I smiled sweetly. "You're so helpful, Assistant Xu. By the way, I hear your father is a collector. I should send a real set to his house sometime as a thank you gift." Xu Jiajiao's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "No, that's really not necessary." "Oh, it is," I insisted. "One good turn deserves another. Since Vice Dean Xu has been such a help to Lee Chungsa, it's only right that I show my appreciation." Xu Jiao Jiao forced a stiff smile and turned to leave. Watching her retreating back, I sent a text to my father, the fish has taken the bait. File the case for an official investigation into Vice Dean Shu. My father replied almost instantly. Already handled. Also, Li Chunza is looking for you, he looks desperate. I looked up and sure enough saw Li Chunza standing at the entrance of the convention hall, his face a mask of anxiety. The moment he spotted me, he strode over. Anran, can we talk, Attorney Li? I said, tilting my chest badge toward him. Please address me as Attorney Chiao, we have nothing to discuss. About this morning, Li Chunza lowered his voice, sounding urgent. I had no idea you were Qiao Zhenbang's daughter. If I had known, I never would have laid you off. Anran, let's get back together. I'll fire Xu Jiaojiao right now. Come back to Chunza law firm, I'll give you a 30% stake. 30%. I raised an eyebrow. Li Chunza, I brought in 60% of your clients and handled 40% of the firm's caseload. You think offering me 30% is an act of charity? Then how much do you want? Li Chunza snapped, his desperation bleeding through. 50%. You want to be the majority shareholder. Everything is negotiable. I want you ruined. I said calmly. Li Chunza, 3 years ago you had nothing. I was the one who scouted your clients, stayed up all night redrafting your contracts, and even diverted my father's resources to prop you up. Now you think you can buy me back with 30%. You're not worth the price. Li Chunza's face flushed a deep crimson. Qiao Anran, don't push your luck. You think being a senior partner at Kingandwood is everything. You what? I interrupted. You have a vice dean at the court backing you up. Did you know Vice Dean Shu is being detained for investigation next month? Or that I have proof Xu Jiaojiao has been trafficking antiques? The very connections you're so proud of are about to become your death warrant. Li Chunza looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. He stumbled back a step, stuttering. What are you talking about? I'm saying. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. The game is over, Li Chunza. Starting tomorrow, Chunza law firm will lose all its major accounts. Your biggest client, Huiyuan Group, just signed a long-term consultancy contract with Kingandwood, and I am the lead on that project. Li Chunza's face turned deathly pale. Huiyuan Group accounted for 40% of his firm's revenue. They were the one lifeline he couldn't afford to lose. You can't do this. His voice trembled. Anran. Think about our 3 years together, our feelings. I let out a cold laugh. Li Chunza, did you ever have feelings for me, or were you just in love with the resources I brought to the table? I turned to walk away, but he screamed after me. Qiao Anran, you'll regret this, I have dirt on you. I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. Dirt? What kind of dirt? Li Chunza's eyes darted around. 3 years ago you misappropriated client funds to help your father with an investment. I have the evidence. I actually laughed. That had been a test set by my father. The funds were returned the very next day. The client was fully aware and had consented, and every single document was legal and above board. Li Chunza, I said, that was an investment lesson from Qiao Zhenbang to his daughter. The client was my uncle. You really think you can threaten me with that? Li Chunza froze completely. As I stepped out of the hall into the sunlight, my phone rang. It was the chairman of Huiyuan Group, Attorney Chiao. I heard you've moved to Kingandwood. Fantastic. We were looking to switch firms anyway. That guy Li Chunza keeps bringing some eye candy assistant to our meetings. She doesn't know a thing and she's an eyesore. Chairman Li. I smiled. Come by Kingandwood tomorrow to sign the contract. I'll give you a 20% discount as a courtesy. Perfect. I love your style, Attorney Chiao. Hanging up, I took a deep breath. Step 1 complete. Your turn, Xu Jiaojiao. The signing ceremony for Huiyuan Group was held in the 71st floor conference room at Kingandwood. I arrived an hour early to review the documents. My assistant knocked and entered. Attorney Chiao, Li Chunza from Chunza law firm is here. He says he needs to see you. Let him wait. I took my time sipping coffee and reviewing files. An hour later, I pushed open the door. Li Chunza stood up immediately. His eyes were bloodshot, looking like he hadn't slept a wink. Anran, he rasped. Huiyuan can't leave. They are 40% of our revenue if they go. Chunza law firm is finished. And I sat down across from him. Attorney Li, this is business. May the best firm win. The best? Li Chunza gave a bitter laugh. You're only the best because your last name is Chiao, because you have a powerful father. I'm the best because I've been the top performer for 5 consecutive years, I said coldly. Because I won 12 Manda lawsuits for Huiyuan and helped them tenfold their market cap. Li Chunza, besides using women, what exactly do you bring to the table? Li Chunza's face contorted. Suddenly he dropped to his knees and grabbed my hand. Anran, I'm begging you, I can't lose the firm, it's my life's work, your life's work. I shoved his hand away. Do you have any idea how much of my blood, sweat, and tears went into that firm 3 years ago when you were on the brink of bankruptcy? I brought Huiyuan in, I pulled 30 all-nighters to build the proposals, I drank with clients until I had stomach bleeding, and now you have the nerve to call it your life's work, Li. Chunza slumped onto the floor, tears streaming down his face. I know I wronged you, but Jiaojiao's father, Vice Dean Shu, was detained this morning. I cut him off. Shu Jiaojiao is downstairs right now, being taken in by the Economic Crimes Investigation Department for antique fraud. Li Chunza, the powerful people you clung to have fallen. It was as if his spine had been removed. He went limp on the floor, the door opened, and Chairman Li of Huiyuan walked in. He stopped dead at the sight. Attorney Qiao, what is? Nothing, I smiled, an old colleague here to say goodbye. Chairman Li, please take a seat, let's sign. Chairman Li sat down, glancing suspiciously at Li Chunza. Attorney Li, I've heard your firm's service quality has plummeted lately. That female assistant of yours, she knows nothing and kept interrupting me. Chairman Li Chunza scrambled up. You can't leave, we've worked together for 3 years for the sake of our history. History? Chairman Li frowned. Attorney Li, I only worked with you because of Attorney Qiao. Now that she's gone, why would I stay? Li Chunza looked like he'd been struck by a bolt of lightning. He turned to me, his eyes shifting from pleading to pure venom. Qiaoanran, you planned this all along, didn't you? From the first day you stepped into my firm, this was the plan. No, I said, putting the contracts away. I genuinely wanted to help you. I wanted to grow the firm with you. You were the one who destroyed everything with your own hands. I turned to leave. Behind me, Li Chunza screamed, Qiaoanran, I won't let you get away with this. I'll haunt you even if I'm a ghost. The elevator doors closed, cutting off his curses. My assistant whispered, Attorney Qiao, where to next? The courthouse, I said. I want to sit in on Shu Jiaojiao's hearing. In courtroom 3. Shu Jiaojiao stood in the defendant's dock, pale and disheveled. When she saw me, her gaze was murderous. Qiaoanran, you set me up. That tea set was a fake. You trapped me, assistant. Shu, I said evenly. I asked you to fetch the tea set. Not to swap it for a counterfeit. You did that because you wanted to make a quick buck on the side. And your father was taken down because someone reported evidence of his bribery. What does any of that have to do with me? Shu Jiaojiao froze for a second before screaming hysterically. It was you, it had to be you. You hate me for taking Li Chunza from you. Taking him, I chuckled. Shu Jiaojiao, a piece of trash like Li Chunza is all yours. I find him repulsive. The judge banged the gavel. Order. Defendant Shu Jiaojiao, the evidence for fraud and bribery is conclusive. You are hereby sentenced to 5 years in prison. Shu Jiaojiao collapsed and was dragged out by the bailiffs. As she passed me, she suddenly hissed, Qiaoanran, you think you've won. Li Chunza has photos of you, intimate photos. I frowned. What? He installed a camera in the bedroom when you lived together. Shu Jiaojiao laughed manically. He said if you ever stopped being obedient, he'd use them to ruin you. You're finished, Qiao. Anran, ha ha ha. A chill ran down my spine. A camera in the bedroom. As her laughter echoed down the hallway, I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking. Li Chunza, you animal. I rushed back to Kingandwood and burst into my father's office. Dad, I need you to check every property Li Chunza owns. My voice trembled. I need to know where he hid those cameras. My father's brow furrowed. What happened? I repeated what Shu Jiaojiao had said. My father's face turned livid. That bastard, I'll have people on it. Immediately. 3 hours later, Mr. Zhong, our lawyer, brought the results. Ms. Qiao, Li Chunza installed microcameras in the West City Villa, the lounge at Chunza Law Firm, and even your old car. Furthermore, we found a massive cache of video files on his private server involving multiple women. I felt sick to my stomach. 3 years, what I thought was a relationship was nothing more than voyeurism and calculation. Sue him, I said, my voice cold as ice. Invasion of privacy, illegal filming, distribution of obscene material, throw every charge possible at him, and file for a restraining order and a travel ban. Understood. One more thing. Mr. Zhong handed me a file. The partners' meeting for Chunza Law Firm is tomorrow. Li Chunza is proposing a capital increase to dilute your shares. Even though you've resigned, the partnership agreement says you still hold a 5% stake. He wants to swallow my shares. Yes, and has found a new investor, apparently the heiress of a real estate group, a Miss Lin. I raised an eyebrow. Lin Xia, the only daughter of Lin Real Estate 28, recently returned from abroad. I smirked. Lin Xia, my cousin, my uncle's daughter, she was back and she was involved with Li Chunza. Dad, I turned to my father. I'm going to that partners meeting tomorrow. In what capacity? As a senior partner of King & Wood, I said, and as Lin Xia's older cousin. The next day at the Chunza law firm conference room, I was wearing a sharp red suit when I pushed open the door. The room fell into a stunned silence. Li Chunza sat at the head of the table. Beside him sat a young woman with long hair and a beautiful face. Lin Xia, her eyes lit up when she saw me. Cousin, the entire room gasped. Li Chunza's face went white instantly. Xia, what did you just call her? Cousin. Lin Xia said with an air of practiced innocence. Anran is my cousin and Xiao Zhenbang is my uncle. Chunza, you never mentioned your ex-girlfriend was part of my family. Li Chunza's hands were shaking visibly. He looked at me, his expression shifting from pure shock to absolute terror. You, the two of you, Attorney Li, I said, taking a seat across from him. Allow me to introduce you. This is Lin Xia, my cousin. Her father's my uncle, is the chairman of Huyuan Group. The real estate heiress you've been trying so hard to cling to. That's my little sister. Lin Xia tilted her head curiously. Cousin, this Li Chunza told me you were just some optimized lawyer who got laid off. He even said you had mental issues and warned me to stay away from you. Was he telling the truth? What do you think? I replied with a thin smile. I think he's a liar, Xia said, pulling a stack of documents from her bag. Li Chunza, this investment agreement you wanted me to sign is riddled with trap clauses. I consulted my father's legal team and they called it what it is, fraud. Furthermore, I looked into your background. You were on the verge of bankruptcy 3 years ago until my cousin saved you by bringing in clients, and now you're trying to swallow her shares and filming her with hidden cameras. The room went dead silent. Li Chunza's face turned from white to ashen, then to a bruised shade of purple. Xia, let me explain. He reached out, trying to grab her arm. Don't touch me, Xia snapped, pulling away. Li Chunza, I don't want my cousin's leftovers. This investment is dead. Also, my father asked me to relay a message. Every single partnership between Lin Real Estate and Chunza Law Firm is terminated. Effective immediately. Li Chunza slumped into his chair as if his soul had been sucked out of his body. I stood up and surveyed the room. To the rest of the partners, I am Xiao Anran, senior partner at King & Wood and former senior associate of this firm. Today, I am here as a creditor. Li Chunza owes me 3 years of back pay, client resource usage fees, and intellectual property compensation totaling 50 million yuan. If Chunza Law Firm cannot settle this debt, I will be filing for bankruptcy. Liquidation. 50 million, one partner gasped. We only have 30 million in our accounts. Then go bankrupt, I said coldly. Or you can vote to remove Li Chunza. If a receiver of my choosing takes over, I might consider restructuring the debt. The room erupted into chaos. The partners began whispering frantically, their glares toward Li Chunza growing increasingly hostile. Li Chunza suddenly lunged to his feet, pointing a finger at me. Xiao Anran, you set me up. This was a trap from the start. Xia approaching me, it was all a game. A game. I let out a sharp laugh. Li Chunza, it was your own greed and your obsession with climbing the social ladder that led you into this. I didn't have to do anything except let Xia socialize naturally. Li Chunza charged at me, intent on grabbing my collar, but the security guards I'd brought along blocked him instantly. Li Chunza, I said, calmly smoothing out my suit, I've already reported the hidden camera footage to the police. They should be on their way. You're looking at a solid 5 years behind bars. Li Chunza froze as if struck by lightning, then he let out a guttural beast-like wail and collapsed to his knees. Anran, I was wrong. Please let me go. I'll give you everything, the firm, the shares, it's all yours. Just don't do this to me. I looked down at him. This man I once loved was now crawling at my feet like a dog. Li Chunza, I said, it's too late. The police walked in and snapped handcuffs onto his wrists as they dragged him out. He was still screaming. Xiao Anran, you'll pay for this. I'll haunt you even after I'm dead. I turned to leave and Lin Xia caught up to me. Cousin, that was badass. You were great too. I smiled. Nice acting, of course, Xia said proudly. I'm a Xiao after all, but seriously cousin, the videos, are you really okay? I'm fine, I assured her. My father's team already handled it. Every backup has been wiped. Li Chunza has nothing left. Nothing except the shame and the prison sentence waiting for him. The news of Li Chunza's detention hit the financial headlines the next morning. Partner of renowned law firm detained on charges of illegal filming and fraud. I was eating breakfast and scrolling through the news. Feeling a strange sense of peace, my phone rang. An unknown number. Attorney Chow, a raspy voice spoke. I'm Xu Jiaojiao's mother. Please, I beg you, show some mercy to my daughter. She's pregnant. She really is. She had a miscarriage in prison and she's hemorrhaging. I frowned. Xu Jiaojiao was pregnant with Li Chunza's child. Mrs. Xu, I said. Coldly, Xu Jiaojiao committed a crime. That is a fact that has nothing to do with me. As for the child, if it's Li Chunza's, you can wait for a DNA test to seek a reduced sentence, but I will not be withdrawing the charges. Attorney Chow, Mrs. Xu broke into sobs. Jiaojiao said. She said the baby isn't Li Chunza's, it's her father's. I froze. Vice Dean Xu Jiaojiao and her own father. Mrs. Xu, that is incest, I said, my voice turning like ice. You realize what that implies? There was a long silence on the other end, followed by Mrs. Xu's hysterical crying. I know, but Attorney Jiaojiao was forced. It's been happening since she was 16. Her father, we didn't dare call the police. We couldn't say a word. Please help her. I gripped my phone, a chill running through me. Xu Jiaojiao, that arrogant, shallow woman, had been a victim all along. Mrs. Xu, I took a deep breath. I'll have my lawyer contact you if Xu Jiaojiao is willing to testify and charge Vice Dean Xu with sexual assault. I will consider helping her get a reduced sentence, but only if she tells the whole truth, including how much Li Chunza knew. He knew everything. Mrs. Xu choked out. Li Chunza knew about her and her father. He used it to blackmail her, forcing her to get close to court officials to dig up dirt for him. I saw it clearly now. Li Chunza hadn't just used Xu Jiaojiao for her connections, he had weaponized her trauma to turn her into his personal spy. The man was more depraved than I had ever imagined. Mrs. Xu, I said, have Jiaojiao write a detailed statement. My lawyer will take it from there. As for Li Chunza, he'll get exactly what he deserves. I hung up and immediately dialed Mr. Zhong. Investigate the financial dealings between Li Chunza and Vice Dean Xu. I suspect a mix of bribery, sexual favors, and blackmail. On it also Attorney Chow, Li Chunza's lawyer, wants to see you. He claims to have critical evidence to exchange. Let him in. That afternoon in the Kingandwood Lounge, Li Chunza's lawyer sat across from me, sweating profusely. Attorney Chow, Mr. Li is willing to hand over all video backups and confess to everything. He only asks that you drop the charges and give him a way out. A way out? I sneered. Did he give me a way out when he was filming me? Attorney Chow, Mr. Li said that if you don't drop the charges, he'll release the videos. He's prepared to go down in flames. The videos are on a foreign server with an automated release command. If he doesn't cancel it, they go public. Is he threatening me? I stood up. Tell Li Chunza that his foreign server was hacked by my father's team hours ago. Every file has been deleted. He has nothing. The lawyer's face went pale. That's impossible. Go back and ask him if it's impossible, I said coldly. And tell him this. Xu Jiaojiao has agreed to testify against him and Vice Dean Xu for conspiracy to commit blackmail. His sentence just jumped from 5 years to 10. The lawyer slumped in his seat, speechless. I turned to leave, stopping only at the door. One more thing. Tell Li Chunza we'll find out soon enough if that baby was his or the Vice Dean's. If it was his, he can name the child from prison. Leaving the lounge, I took a deep breath. My phone rang. It was my father. Wanxing, Li Chunza's lawyer, just contacted me. He's willing to plead guilty to everything as long as we don't go public with his connection to Vice Dean Xu. He's terrified of what will happen to him in prison if the other inmates find out. Agreed, I said. Keep the trial public but redact the parts about Xu Jiaojiao to protect the victim. As for Li Chunza, let him rot. Understood. By the way, Xia wants to take you to dinner to celebrate. Tell her it's on me tonight. I smiled. We're going to that hot pot place she loves. I looked out the window. Li Chunza, you thought this was the end. No, this is only the beginning. Every single day in that cell, you'll remember exactly how you climbed up by using women, and how you fell because of them. That is your karma. Li Chunza's case went to trial a month later. I didn't attend. I sat in my office at Kingandwood and watched the live stream. Li Chunza was wearing an orange inmate vest. He had lost a lot of weight, and his hair had turned grey. He looked 10 years older. The judge delivered the verdict. The defendant, Li Chunza, is found guilty of infringing on personal information, blackmail and corporate embezzlement. He is hereby sentenced to 8 years in prison. Li Chunza didn't appeal. He pleaded guilty on the spot. After closing the stream, I received a text message sent from the detention center. Anran, I'm sorry. I know an apology is useless, but I had to say it. You are the person I've wronged most in this life. If there is a next life, I hope to be a better man, someone who can love you with dignity. I deleted the message without replying. Some wounds cannot be healed by an apology. Some sins cannot be washed away by repentance. Lee Chunza has 8 years ahead of him, plenty of time to figure out what true value really means. My phone rang. It was Lin Xia. Cousin, big news. Vice Dean Xu got 15 years. Xu Jiaojiao got 2 years due to her cooperation and pregnancy, with her sentence suspended for medical reasons. But the baby didn't make it. I went silent. That innocent child, lost before it even had a chance, a casualty of all that darkness. Cousin, Xia's voice dropped. Do you think Xu Jiaojiao is pitiable? She's pitiable but also accountable, I said. She was a victim but she was also an accomplice. She did a lot of harm for Li Chunza. Even if she was coerced, the damage was done. Then can we help her? We already have, I said. I've arranged for a therapist and a job for her once she's ready, but whether she can truly move on, that's up to her. Cousin, you really do have a good heart. It's not about having a good heart, I said, gazing at the sky outside the window. It's about understanding. In a patriarchal society, when women tear each other down, men are the only ones who profit. In the end, Xu Jiaojiao made mistakes. But the real culprits are Li Chunza and Vice Dean Xu. I hope she realizes now that relying on yourself is better than relying on anyone else. As I hung up, my assistant knocked and entered. Attorney Chow, there's a lady here to see you. She says she's Li Chunza's mother. I frowned. Li Chunza's mother? I'd never met her. Word was she lived in the countryside and Li never brought her to the city even after he struck it rich. Let her in. An elderly woman in her 70s walked in. She was dressed simply, her face a map of deep wrinkles, clutching a small cloth bundle. The moment she saw me, she dropped to her knees. Miss Chow, I beg you, please spare my son. He was just confused. Please give him a way out. I hurried to help her up. Auntie, please sit down. Li Chunza's sentence has already been handed down. I have no power to change it. You do. The old woman grabbed my hand. You're Qiao Zhenbang's daughter. One word from you and the court would reconsider. Please, he's my only son. If he stays in prison, I won't survive this. I looked at her, my heart a tangle of conflicting emotions. This was a mother pleading for her son, regardless of the gravity of his crimes. Auntie, I said softly, do you actually know what Li Chunza did? I know, she sobbed. He filmed you. He deserves to be punished. But Miss Chow, Chunza wasn't always like this. He was such a good filial boy growing up. It was my fault. I was useless and couldn't afford his tuition. That's why he became so obsessed with success at any cost. You couldn't afford it. I was stunned. Li Chunza said his father was an entrepreneur and he grew up wealthy. He lied. She gave a bitter, weary smile. His father was a gambler who died years ago. We were so poor we could barely put food on the table. The money for his university was pooled together by the villagers. He's a proud boy and hated being looked down upon, so he made up those stories. I went silent. So, Li Chunza's vanity stemmed from deep-seated insecurity. His ruthlessness was born of fear. He was terrified of going back to that impoverished village, terrified of being seen as nothing. In his desperate scramble to the top, he had lost his soul and eventually shattered into pieces. Auntie, I whispered, I can't change his prison term, but I can arrange for you to visit him, and I'll provide you with a stipend so you can live comfortably in your old age. The woman froze, then broke into fresh sobs. Miss Chow, you don't hate him. I do, I said, but I also understand that people are complicated. Li Chunza hurt me, but he is still your son. Auntie, stay strong. Wait for your son to come out, and then teach him how to be a real man. After seeing her out, I sat in my office for a long time, lost in thought. Li Chunza, you had a wonderful mother. It's a tragedy you didn't know how to cherish her. My phone rang. It was my father. Wanxing, come home for dinner. I have good news. What is it? Your uncle has decided to spin off Huiyuan Group's legal department into a standalone entity, the Huiyuan Legal Group. He wants you to serve as the CEO. From now on, you'll be managing 2 of the top legal organizations in the country. I smiled. This was the true victory. It wasn't just about putting Li Chunza behind bars. It was about becoming so powerful that I could protect those who needed it most. Dad, I'll be there. I'll bring a good bottle of wine. Let's celebrate. Looking forward to it. I hung up and looked out at the sunset. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of gold. Li Chunza, Xu Jiaojiao, and the vice dean had all paid the price, and I, Qiao Anran, finally stood at the pinnacle of the industry. But this was just the beginning. There were more injustices to correct and more vulnerable people to protect. This is my mission. The inauguration ceremony for Huiyuan Legal Group was set for the following week. I was buried in work, building teams and headhunting talent, sleeping only 4 hours a night. Meanwhile, Chunza law firm had become a mere shell of itself after losing its key clients and partners. Attorney Chiao, my assistant, knocked. A few senior associates from Chunza law firm want to jump ship to us. Should I schedule a meeting? I'll see them, I said without looking up, but on one condition. They must issue a public statement severing all ties with Lee Chunza and hand over any evidence of his malpractice. Understood. That afternoon 3 lawyers walked into my office. They were familiar faces from my time at Chunza, the same men who used to mock me, saying a woman's place was at home having babies. Attorney Chiao, the lead, Mr. Zhong, said with an awkward fawning smile, "We were blind before and clearly offended you. Now that Lee Chunza has fallen, we're hoping to work under you. I can consider it." I set my files down. "But first, I want to know what dirt you still have on Lee Chunza." The 3 traded looks. Finally Mr. Zhong pulled out a USB drive. "This contains evidence of him misappropriating client funds and records of him bribing judges. We didn't dare come forward before. We were afraid of retaliation. And you aren't afraid now. You're the boss of the industry now." Zhong laughed bitterly. "Following you is the only way we have a future." I took the drive, a cold sneer forming. "Lee Chunza, your so-called brothers are no better than this." "Fine," I said. "Welcome to Who You Are Legal, but remember, in this firm you eat based on your merit, no factions, no brown-nosing the elite. Can you handle that?" "Absolutely yes, m." Once they left, I handed the drive to my lead counsel, Mr. Zhong. "Hand this over to the Economic Crimes Unit to bolster Lee Chunza's case file. Also vet these 3, if they were involved in any of his illegal operations. Deal with them accordingly." "Attorney Chiao, you mean quality over quantity?" I said coldly. "I don't need fair-weather friends, and I certainly don't need parasites." By the time I finished, it was 10 p.m. I was rubbing my temples, getting ready to leave, when a call came from an unknown number. Chiao Anran, a grim voice spoke. "You think you've won." I frowned. "Who is this?" "You don't need to know who I am." The voice sneered. "You just need to know that Lee Chunza was merely a pawn. You haven't even met the real players yet. You really think Qiao Zhenbang built his empire from scratch? You think your mother really died of natural causes? Qiao Anran, why don't you look into how King & Wood law firm really got its start 20 years ago?" The line went dead. I gripped my phone, a cold sweat breaking out. 20 years ago, the origin of King & Wood. My mother. I immediately called my father. "Dad, how did Mom really die?" My father paused. "She was sick, honey, liver cancer." "Why are you asking this all of a sudden?" "I just got a call. Someone mentioned 20 years ago. They said you didn't build this firm from nothing." Silence stretched on the other end of the line. Finally, my father's voice dropped an octave. "Wanxing, come home. It's time I told you the truth." I rushed home to find my father in the study, a faded photo album open on the desk. "Sit." He gestured to the chair opposite him. "What do you want to know?" "Everything," I said. "How King & Wood started, how Mom died, and who that caller might be." My father took a deep breath. "It's true, King & Wood didn't start from scratch 20 years ago. Lee Chunza's father, Lee Jiongwo, Vice Dean Shu's brother, Shu Jiongwo, and I opened a firm together. We caught a break with a massive case, restructuring a state-owned enterprise. We made 30 million, but that money, it was obtained through the illegal embezzlement of state assets." I felt a chill. "And you were part of it?" "I didn't know." My father shook his head. "Lee and Shu handled the back-end operations. They kept me in the dark. By the time I found out the money was in the account, they threatened me, said if I talked, we'd all go down together. I had no choice but to keep working, but I started quietly gathering evidence to turn myself in. And then, his eyes filled with pain, your mother found out. She urged me to come clean, saying it was better to be in prison with a clean conscience. I agreed, but Lee and Shu found out. They staged a car accident." I covered my mouth, tears blurring my vision. "Mom, your mother died instantly." My father's voice shook. "I was critically injured and spent 6 months in the hospital. During those 6 months, Lee and Shu carved up the firm and kicked me out. After I recovered, I changed my name, started over, and eventually built King & Wood. As for Lee Jiongwo, he died later because of gambling debts. Shu Jiongwo, the vice dean's brother, died of an illness 10 years ago. So Lee Chunza is Lee Jiongwo's son," my father said. "He probably doesn't know the whole story, but his father must have left him something before he died. The caller could be a Lee relative or a descendant of the Shu family. They want revenge on me by targeting you." I wiped my tears, my voice turning cold. "What do they want?" "I don't know." He shook his head. But Wanxing, be careful if the events of 20 years ago are unearthed. King and Wood is finished and I'll go to prison, but I'd rather be in a cell than see you get hurt again. I looked at my father, his hair had gone white and his back was stooped, but his eyes were as steady as ever. Dad, I said, we'll face this together. You couldn't protect Mom 20 years ago, but now we'll protect this family together. He squeezed my hand, his eyes reddening. All right, together. My phone rang again, same number. Chow Anran, made up your mind, tomorrow at noon. The abandoned factory on the west side, come alone, otherwise the evidence from 20 years ago ends up on the desk of the Discipline Inspection Commission. I sneered into the phone. Fine, I'll be there, but remember, the Chows don't take kindly to threats. Hanging up, I looked at my father. Dad, get the team ready. We're ending this tomorrow. My father nodded, his gaze sharpening. 20 years is long enough, let's finish this. The next day at noon, the abandoned factory on the west side, I walked in. Alone, wearing a bulletproof vest with a micro earpiece hidden in my ear, my father's men were lying in ambush nearby, ready to storm the place the moment I gave the word. In the center of the factory stood a middle-aged man. He was balding, with a sinister glint in his eyes that bore a striking resemblance to Li Changze. Li Jianmin, I recognized him. He was Li Changze's uncle and Li Zhongwo's younger brother. Miss Chow has a sharp eye, Li Jianmin sneered, unlike that stupid nephew of mine who let himself get played like a fool by a woman. Li Changze is your nephew, I said. You're just going to watch him go to prison, a waste of space. Li Jianmin spat. If he can't even handle one woman, he deserves to rot. But I'm different. I want Xiao Zhenbang's life. I want Jindu. I want everything that was owed to my brother 20 years ago. 20 years ago, your brother killed my mother, I said coldly. He got what he deserved. Bullshit, Li Jianmin roared. It was your father's greed. He wanted that money all to himself, so he staged that car accident to kill him. My brother was framed. Where's your proof? Li Jianmin pulled out a USB drive. Right here, the accounts from back then, documents signed by your father, proof that he knew and was involved. Chow Anran, once I hand this over to the Discipline Inspection Commission, your father is finished. Jindu is finished. I looked at the drive in his hand and suddenly laughed. Li Jianmin, are you sure that's evidence? Li Jianmin froze. What do you mean? It means, I clapped my hands and police officers swarmed in from all sides of the factory, that the USB drive in your hand is a fake. The real evidence was handed over to the authorities by my father 20 years ago. There just wasn't enough to build a case back then. But now, with your confession, we can reopen the investigation. Li Jianmin's face went pale. He turned to run, but the police tackled him to the ground. Chow Anran, you set me up, he screamed. No, I walked over, looking down at him. You walked right into this yourself, Li Jianmin. Did you really think I was stupid enough to come here alone? This vest is to protect me from you. This earpiece is to coordinate your arrest. You're done. As Li Jianmin was dragged away, he was still cursing. Xiao Zhenbang, I hope you die a miserable death. I hope your whole family burns. I stepped out of the factory. The sunlight was so bright it made me squint. My father was sitting in the car waiting for me. Is it over? He asked. It's over, I replied. Li Jianmin will confess to everything. The old case will be cleared, and Mom can finally rest in peace. My father closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. 20 years, Wanxing, thank you. Don't thank me. I squeezed his hand. I'm your daughter. This is what I was supposed to do. My phone rang. It was the detention center. Miss Chow, Li Changze wants to see you. He says he has something important to tell you. My father and I exchanged a look. I'll be right back. In the detention center meeting room, Li Changze was wearing an orange vest. He looked even thinner than before, his eyes sunken like a skeleton's. You came, he said, his voice rasping. My uncle, was he caught? Yes, I said. He tried to blackmail me and was caught red-handed. Li Changze, the Li family is completely finished. Li Changze lowered his head, his shoulders shaking. I know, I asked you here because I wanted to tell you a secret about your mother. I frowned. What? My mother? She's not my biological mother. Li Changze said with difficulty. My real mother was your mother's best friend. She was in the car during that accident 20 years ago. She died too. My father, Li Jiongguo, to cover up the truth, gave me away to relatives in the countryside, the woman I call my mother now. I was stunned. What are you saying? My birth mother's name was Lin Wanxing. Li Changze looked up, tears falling. The same name as your mother. They were college classmates, best friends. That day they went together to try and convince my father to turn himself in. But then, my head was spinning. Lin Wanqing, my mother's best friend, then Li Chengze. You and I, we aren't related by blood. Li Chengze managed a bitter smile. But I grew up being told that the Qiao family killed my mother. I approached you for revenge at first to find out the truth. But I never expected that I would actually fall in love with you. I took a step back, feeling a chill run through my body. So his entire approach was based on a vendetta. All that tenderness, all those vows, they were just weapons for revenge. Li Chengze, my voice trembled. You filmed me, you threatened me, was that all for revenge too? No, Li Chengze said desperately. That was later, it was after I found out the truth and lost my mind. I realized my father was the actual killer, that I'd been seeking revenge on the wrong people and that I'd hurt the person I truly loved. Anran, I'm sorry to you, to my mother, to everyone. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against the glass. Anran, I'm not asking for your forgiveness, I just beg you to look after my current mother. She's innocent, she didn't know anything. I looked at the man kneeling before me with a surge of complicated emotions. Did I hate him? Yes. Was he pitiful? Also yes, his entire life had been a sacrifice to lies and hatred. Li Chengze, I said, I've already made arrangements for your mother. I've also found your biological mother's grave and will have it restored. You just focus on your rehabilitation in prison when you get out. Try to be a good man. Li Chengze looked up, his face soaked in tears. Anran, you don't hate me anymore. I do, I said. But hating you is less important than letting myself move on. Li Chengze, we're even. I turned to leave as he shouted behind me. Anran, if there is a next life, I hope we aren't enemies, I hope we're strangers or friends. I didn't look back. Some paths once walked offer no turning back. Some people once missed are gone for a lifetime. Li Jianmin's case went to trial 3 months later. He confessed to everything, including helping Li Jiongguo stage the accident 20 years ago and hiding or forging evidence over the years. In exchange for his cooperation, his sentence was reduced, but he still received 10 years in prison. My father's name was cleared. My mother's death was reclassified as murder, with Li Jiongguo and Xu Zhongguo identified as the primary culprits. Though they were long dead, history finally gave the Qiao family justice. Jindu law firm held a memorial ceremony for my mother, and to mark the end of that dark chapter, I stood before my mother's grave and laid down a bouquet of white chrysanthemums. Mom, I whispered, the killers have all been punished. You can rest now. Dad is doing well and so am I. I'll continue your legacy. I'll be an upright lawyer, protecting the weak and punishing the wicked. The wind blew, rustling the leaves like a soft response from her. My phone rang. It was Lin Xia. Cousin, huge news. Xu Jiaojiao wrote a book. It's about her time in prison and her father's crimes. It's trending everywhere. I frowned. Xu Jiaojiao wrote a book. Isn't she afraid of the backlash? It's called The Broken Vase, Xia said. It's actually quite good, very raw, very brave. She's become an anti-sexual assault ambassador now, giving speeches and helping other victims like her. I went quiet. Xu Jiaojiao, the woman I once hated with every fiber of my being, had ultimately chosen the hardest path, to expose her own scars to light the way for others. Buy a copy for me, I said. I'd like to read it. Already did. It's headed to your office. Oh, by the way, there's a legal charity gala tonight. Are you going? Yes, I said. I'll be there representing both Jindu and Huayuan's legal department. The gala was held at the Ritz-Carlton, a whirlwind of fine silks and clinking glasses. I was wearing a black gown and my mother's jade necklace, gracefully accepting the compliments of the crowd. Lawyer Qiao, I heard you're running for vice president of the National Bar Association. Lawyer Qiao, about Huiyuan Legal's IPO. Any chance we could get involved? Lawyer Qiao, you're truly a role model for women. I smiled and navigated the conversations, but I felt a lingering exhaustion. These platitudes felt so similar to the flattery Li Chengze used to shower me with 3 years ago. Lawyer Qiao, a familiar-sounding voice came from behind me. May I have this dance? I turned to see a stranger. He looked to be in his early 30s, handsome and refined in a bespoke suit. His name tag read Shen Mo, CEO of Shen Group. Mr. Shen, I said, shaking his hand politely. Do we know each other? Not personally, Shen Mo smiled. But I knew your mother 20 years ago. She provided me with legal aid. She helped me win a case that changed my life. I was taken aback. What kind of case? A sexual assault case, Shen Mo said calmly. I was 12 and I was being abused by my stepfather. Your mother took the case and sent him to prison. Later she sponsored my education until I went abroad. Lawyer Qiao, your mother was my benefactor and my hero. I looked into his eyes. They were clear and sincere, devoid of Li Cheng's calculations or the typical greed I saw in men of his status. Mr. Shen, I said, my mother didn't help people for the sake of a reward. I know, Shenmo nodded. That's why I want to pay that kindness forward. Lawyer Qiao, the Shun Group is planning to establish a legal aid fund specifically for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. We'd like to invite you to be our consultant. Why me? Because you've lived through it, Shenmo said, looking me straight in the eye. You were betrayed and hurt, but you weren't broken. You're proof that a victim can become a survivor and a survivor can become a warrior. Lawyer Qiao, I want to work with you to help more people. My heart skipped a beat. This wasn't the suffocating pursuit I'd felt from Li Chengza. This was an invitation between equals, a resonance between two people with the same goal. All right, I said, I accept, but on one condition. What's that? Call me Anran. I smiled. Lawyer Qiao feels a bit too formal. Shenmo blinked, then laughed. His smile was as warm as a spring breeze. All right, Anran, in that case, may I have this dance? I placed my hand in his and stepped onto the dance floor. The music swelled, a slow, graceful waltz. Shenmo, I said, do you really know everything about me, my past, my reputation, I know, Shenmo interrupted gently, daughter of Qiao Zhanbang, senior partner at Jindu, Li Cheng's ex, Xu Jiajia's nemesis, and a survivor of domestic turmoil. Anran, those labels make up your history, but they don't define who you are. The person I want to know is the one behind the labels. I looked at him, my eyes stinging with warmth. For 3 years, he was the first person who wanted to understand me, not for my professional value or my family name, but for me. Shenmo, I said softly, it's a long story. Do you have the patience to listen? I have a lifetime. He whispered, if you're willing to give it to me. I didn't answer with words. I simply leaned my forehead against his shoulder. Perhaps it really was time to start a new chapter. 1 year later, the Jindu Law Firm Partners Gala, I stood on the stage accepting the trophy for Most Influential Legal Professional of the Year. In the audience sat my father Lin Xia, Shenmo, and even Xu Jiajiao, who was there as a special guest to share her journey of recovery. This award, I said into the microphone, doesn't belong to me alone. It belongs to my mother, who taught me integrity, to my father who taught me resilience, and to everyone who gave me a hand when I fell. I looked down at the crowd, my gaze lingering on each of them. A year ago I was laid off. The reason given was that a woman at 30 is like dregs. A year later, I stand here to tell every woman, age is not a shackle, gender is not a weakness, and other people's definitions do not determine your worth. Thunderous applause erupted. I saw Xu Jiajiao wiping away tears, Xia cheering, Shenmo smiling, and my father nodding with pride. Lastly, I continued, I want to announce a new venture. Jindu Law Firm, in partnership with the Shun Group, is establishing the Anran Legal Aid Fund. With an initial endowment of 100 million, we will focus on helping victims of workplace gender discrimination and domestic violence. I am the first chairperson, but I hope to be the last, because by then such a fund will no longer be necessary. After the banquet, Shenmo was waiting for me on the terrace. A soft night breeze blew and the city lights sparkled like fallen stars. Anran, he handed me a glass of champagne. Congratulations. Thank you. I clinked my glass against his. And thank you for everything. Without your support, the fund wouldn't have launched so quickly. I just provided the capital, Shenmo said. You're the one putting your life into it. This year, you've handled 30 pro bono cases and secured rights for over 200 women. Anran, aren't you exhausted? I paused, then laughed. Tired, yes, but it's worth it. Shenmo, did you know Li Chengza was released last week? Shenmo's expression stiffened slightly. Did he come looking for you? No, I shook my head. He went to the countryside to stay with his mother. He wrote me a letter saying he learned carpentry in prison and wants to open a furniture shop, to be a craftsman. Have you forgiven him? I haven't forgiven him, I said. I've just let it go. Shenmo, hatred is like a poison. It doesn't kill your enemies, it only kills you. I chose to let go, not for his sake but for mine. Shenmo was silent for a long time before asking, Anran, did I ever tell you why I've stayed single all this time? No, because I was waiting, he said, looking me in the eye, waiting for someone worth it, someone who has seen the darkness but still believes in the light, someone who has been betrayed but is still willing to give. Anran, you are that person. My heart raced. Shenmo, you don't have to answer now, he smiled. I've waited years. I can wait longer, but I want you to know that whatever you choose, I'll support you as a friend, a partner, or something more. I looked at him, his eyes clear and sincere under the moonlight. I thought of Li Chengze, the pain, and the tears. Then I remembered a line from Xu Jiajiao's book, "True courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid but moving forward anyway." "Shen Mo," I said, "I don't need you to wait anymore." He froze. "What?" I said. I stepped closer, looking up at him. "I don't need you to wait. You've walked beside me all this year and I've seen your heart, Shen Mo. I'm ready to try and start a new story with you." Shen Mo's eyes reddened. He reached out and gently took my hand. "Anran, are you sure? I might not be perfect. You're better than most people I've ever met," I said. "Give me a chance. And give yourself one too, okay?" Shen Mo didn't say a word. Instead, he leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. It was tender and full of reverence, a silent vow. "Okay," he whispered. "Let's try." In the distance, fireworks bloomed, lighting up the night sky. My father stood at the doorway, watching us with a smile and a nod. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Li Chengze. It was brief. "Anran, I heard you're doing well. Now I can be at peace. I wish you happiness, truly." I replied, "Thank you. Take care of yourself." Then I blocked the number, deleted the chat, and said a final goodbye to the past. "Who was that?" Shen Mo asked. "The past," I replied. "Right now, I'm only looking at the future." He gripped my hand tighter, and together we looked out at the horizon. The city lights were brilliant, like a sea of stars. Xiao Anran, 29, laid off, betrayed and broken. Xiao Anran, 30, senior partner at Jindu, CEO of Huyuan Legal, chairperson of a legal aid fund, and Shen Mo's girlfriend. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. A woman at 30 isn't dregs. She is a queen who has weathered the storm and bloomed in spite of it. 3 years later, Xiao Anran and Shen Mo were married in a simple, intimate ceremony. Xu Jiaojiao served as a bridesmaid. Now a well-known author and philanthropist, Lin Xia took over Huyuan Group, becoming the youngest female CEO in the industry. Li Chengze's furniture shop became a success. Known for its exquisite craftsmanship, he never married and donated his entire income to the Anran Fund. At 80 years old, Qiao Zhenbang published his memoirs, The Road to Justice, which became a classic in the legal world, and the Anran Legal Aid Fund helped over 100,000 families, becoming a beacon in the fight against gender discrimination and domestic violence. Qiao Anran often said, "I'm no hero, I'm just a survivor, but every survivor has the potential to become someone else's light." This was her story, a story of betrayal and revenge, but more importantly one of growth and redemption. The END.